the issue I have with balance, with the concept of balance, is not even with the concept itself. It's more for how this idea is imposed on us and by society, and then kind of word of mouth. It's common sense and general knowledge that we need to allocate a certain amount of time and energy to work and a certain amount to relationships or entertainment, whatever it is. And I just think we grow up and no one teaches us about self-awareness or, understanding oneself, understanding ourselves. These are things that we need to outsource and invest onto, learning. And so on what basis has this idea of balance been imposed on us? And again, it sounds like I'm attacking the concept itself, but it's not that at all, because finding your balance is inevitable. Everyone needs balance, otherwise you don't function as a human being. But my idea of balance might be very different to yours, and the things that I need to prioritize, of course, might be different to yours. And as a result, my time and energy is split differently between all the different spheres of life, if that makes sense. I remember a couple of years ago when the business started to take off. I was working 7 days a week, the same way as I do now. But I was definitely a lot more stressed than I am now, because everything was new and I was learning how to wear different hats and how to act, accordingly to certain situations, how to manage people. There were a lot of different roles that I had to learn all at the same time. So I was definitely a lot more stressed than I am now. And at the back of that, most definitely my relationship was suffering a lot. Both me and my partner didn't feel like we were given enough time and energy to it for it to flourish and to grow. And sometimes that can happen if you're hyper focused on a goal and you're getting almost obsessed with getting the work done and dedicating yourself to it. The people in your life, especially the people that are close to you, will react to that, and not necessarily in a bad way, but if you've always been known in your circle as a certain type of person, and then circumstances change and you change, and you become very focused, very dedicated to a certain goal, of course the people close to you will perceive that and will have to somehow either adjust or react to it, or reject that as well. So whenever we are going through a big change, whether that is positive or negative, of course the first ones to perceive that will be the people close to us. And so as a result, you will be imposed to find some sort of balance. And if you're going through a period of time where your values are changing, the things that you value are changing, the things that you care the most about are changing, you might find yourself feeling quite conflicted on what to do. Because on one end, you want to pursue your goals and you want to give your whole self to it. On the other end, you almost feel like you're hurting the people that you love. And I think, if I can give you a piece of advice with that, I think communication is the most important thing when it comes to the people close to you. Just really communicating openly, with an open heart, what it is that you're doing, how important that is to you, and also what is the middle ground in terms of fulfilling their needs and fulfilling your own, as well as riding the wave. Because trust me, these things come in wave. If you have something big coming for you, it's not going to come back. And if it does come back, it's not going to come back the same way. So you got to ride the wave when the wave comes. So communication is key with that. And just, again, finding a middle ground where, everyone is kind of happy. And at the end of the day, the people that are closest to you should be the people that love you and understand you the most. So if that middle ground becomes too hard to find, then I'm not saying that it's necessarily time to part ways, but you might want to reconsider whether you want to keep those people in your life going forward. I don't mean that you need to cut them out completely or anything like that. As we said in previous videos, Time is the most valuable asset that you have, and you want to give it to the right thing and the right people. And this might sound a little bit drastic, a little bit ruthless, but at some point we all have to make these considerations. Otherwise, you find yourself in 10, 15 years' time in a position where you're not fully happy just because you were trying to make other people happy. And I've seen this countless times, so many times I can't even think of a number in my head. So this shit is real. And so going back to the idea of balance, what the fuck is balance? Balance is whatever that means to you and whatever that looks like to you. So don't be fooled by society, don't be fooled by the media and the people around you that are telling you you need to allocate a certain amount of time to certain things. Life finds its way to balance things out. In fact, we all end up flat in the same position at the end of the day. And this type of thinking might be a bit biased on my end, but I would absolutely hate the idea of living my life on someone else's terms. And unfortunately, we are subconsciously conditioned by so many different things, and we are subject to so many different stimuluses all the time, that it's so important that we find the space to really connect with ourselves and what we think our way forward is, what is important to us, what we want to achieve, who are the people that we want next to us when we do that. And then communicate, open up, say what you want to say to the people that you want to say that to. Because I guarantee you, most of the issues you have with anybody, it's either a lack of understanding of yourself or the other person. And so as a result, it's essentially miscommunication. So if there's one social skill you want to develop, that is communication. Today is day 10 and we're training delts. I'm definitely in a much better mood than I was last week doing this session, and I also have a little bit more time. I'm well fed, so I'm ready to go and have a cracking session. Fuck, I missed the hook there. Fuck you know. Felt it in the biceps a little bit as well. Dangerous stuff. That's what you get for using a suicide grip. Nonetheless, it was a pretty good set, definitely better than last week. I was really feeling this exercise today. I really wanted to do it. Been thinking about it since the moment I woke up. Not even gonna lie. Sometimes it's like that. If you've got 2 or 3 alternative exercises you can do, obviously with the main compound lifts, you want to stick to the same ones for, however long you think is required for you to be able to progress on them, especially if they are exercises that you're well adapted to and you know very well. But it's still good to have alternatives, even if it means doing exactly the same movement, but with a different machine or a different setup on the basis of how you feel on the day. That's also what it means to, become a bit more advanced with your training, is knowing yourself a bit more, having a repertoire of exercises you can do.
Fuck. Rest pause in. One more. We're almost there. One more go. I reckon I got two reps. Fuck. Just warming up the delts now. I wanted to do a second pressing movement, a overhead press. I haven't done that in literally 6 months, maybe even longer, because of my shoulder. But I tried a machine, tried in a neutral position, which is usually a bit more advantageous. Still felt it. So still a bit too early for that, unfortunately. But slowly but surely we'll get there. So we're doing a lateral raises movement. The one I picked for today is actually a standing lateral raises machine, but the way that we're doing it is placing the handle on the forearm. This means that we're getting the wrist out of the equation. And it's kind of the same concept as doing a cuffed at the cable. This means that we only have the elbow joint in between the resistance and the muscle that we're trying to target. Just in general, if you have troubles activating your side delts or just really target them when you're training them, try to choose exercises that reduce the distance between the resistance and the muscle that you're trying to target. So anything that you can place on the forearm or on the elbow is going to work so much better to get the side delt contract. The only thing with this is that it's a little bit awkward to place it, but once you get the momentum going, it feels good. Still a bit light. So you're gonna have to go substantially heavier. Sometimes you just gotta try them, you know? Even if it's just 1 or 2 reps with your working weight, just to ensure that you're working with the right amount of weight. It's going to allow you to take failure or get close to failure in the rep range that you want. Just gotta test things out. Especially nowadays in the fitness industry, everyone is very wary and careful to not overwork, when in reality they just miss out on a lot of extra volume and an extra intensity that they could be applying. You're only overworking when you hit overtrain. So until you get there, I wouldn't worry about overtraining. It just becomes an excuse to do less and to be OCD about the things that don't really matter. It feels good. Always slow negatives. Fuck. It's good. Don't even know if you can see me on this side. Fuck. We're doing this as a third exercise today after another lateral radius movement. I want to do it when I'm already a little bit fatigued. So this means that I can go as heavy as I did last time, but without feeling frustrated that I'm not like going heavy with it. And we're going to go for 3 drop sets. I've already done 1, so same weight as last week, which worked quite well. And near the end of that, I started feeling in my potato calf a bit too much. Always controlling that negative. Fuck. When you guys see me pausing at the bottom, there's still tension there. I'm not actually re-racking the weight, if you know what I mean. There's still tension right there. Fuck. 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 Here we go. Definitely better than last week. More connection, more time under tension. It's good. I can work with this. So we didn't get to film this last time, so it's only fair we do it today. Rear delt machine. Definitely my number 1 exercise to hit the rear delts, to isolate the rear delts. It basically already puts you in position. It's all the case of just getting the setup right. And so with that, what you want to do is make sure that you're protracting the shoulders enough for you to be able to purely just think about shoulder extension. So what we don't want is to get the scapula moving. So we want to do the opposite of what we try to do when we're rowing or when we're pulling down. We want to protract the shoulders, push them down into the hip. So making sure that they're not elevating. And then we purely just want to focus on extending the shoulder. So we want to bring the arm across, almost basically jamming the shoulder out, almost out of position. In fact, when we do it correctly, we shouldn't even be able to go any further back than parallel. You see a lot of people doing this machine and go all the way back, squeezing the shoulder blades back together, almost bringing elbow to elbow at the back. But when you do that, you're only going to be activating the muscles of the mid-back. And you might think, well, that's not a bad thing. Sure, it's not a bad thing. But if you're doing this exercise to isolate the rear delt, that's what you want to do. You want to isolate the rear delt. Also with that, when you do it correctly, you shouldn't be able to do a lot of weight. You're literally isolating a portion of a muscle that is already quite small. What you want is for the handle to be in line with the shoulder, if anything, slightly higher. And then as we said, we protract the shoulders. So we push them into the bench, the press them, so making sure that we're not shrugging up. And you can kind of lean into it as well. So you can sit a little bit further back into the seat and leaning into the front pad. And then you want to keep the elbows soft. You'll need to bend it a little bit. And you drive through the elbow, purely just focusing on extending the arm this way. My scapula is moving as little as possible. And the range of motion is quite limited. We're giving the rest pause. You go from 100 to 0 pretty quickly. Come on. Fuck. I wanted to show you guys from the side, so perhaps it's a little bit easier to understand what I was talking about in terms of the shoulder contraction. So yeah, we're sitting a little bit further back, leaning into the pad, protracting slightly. Doesn't have to be like a crazy protraction where you just become completely dysfunctional. You just want to protract just a little bit, just enough to be able to, again, not get the scapula involved as much. And then the press down, elbow soft, extend. So when I'm getting to the sticking point, I refuse to use the shoulder to pull the arm back. Instead, I keep the shoulder where it is, and I just think about bringing those elbows back, really jamming the shoulder as much as possible. Definitely the best shoulder workout that I had in a long while. So I'm actually quite pleased with today, despite not being able to do the shoulder press, but I know it will come. And this is actually another thing that I wanted to touch on earlier when I did that long speech. You know, when it comes to your goals and when it comes to making, you know, little sacrifices and prioritizing things, it's always best to think long term. It's always best to plan long term. When you think in days or in weeks or months, your vision and your possibilities are so limited. They're so confined. If you start thinking in years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you project yourself in the future, it becomes so much easier to make little sacrifices, to think of your long-term happiness as opposed to the instant gratification. And I also think personally, in my experience, the moment that I switched on to thinking in years, thinking and planning well ahead, it gave me the opportunity to enjoy life on a daily basis, to catch on the little things. In fact, I find myself being capable of so many more emotions and much deeper feeling because I'm more connected to my purpose. And even though I don't know exactly where I'll end up to, this gives me all the space to actually be more present in my daily life. This is a little red L pump. Anyway, as usual, guys, thank you so much for being here. If it's the first time watching one of my videos, I'm posting one vlog a day for an entire year. So make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.